So what I've said to Matt is I've made myself available to give him hand, feed him, keep him hydrated. Just look at the top of the summer room. Myself and Kat was thinking about putting Mount Fuji over the top of the summer room, because the original position was underneath the sill of the greenhouse and over the top of the pond, and now that is too wide, or too deep rather. Answers on a postcard. I cannot tell you how giddy I am at the prospect of having it finished. I got so giddy I even mowed the lawn. You know, a little bit of resin left over, just enough to make the bonding paste to go in there. You have some resin for my barrel? No, I'll just mix up some more. What have you decided to make with the barrel? You said toy storage or something? Yeah, the lid will be used to put adult pints on, and I've put a door in the barrel so the grandkids can have their outdoor toys in it. Right, it's about as close as I can get now. Just brings it flush. Yeah. Because this is resin based, it's waterproof, yeah? Yeah. Then we're going to have flow coat on top of it. And then some polyurethane sealant when you put the windows in. Yeah. Rather than come up to the plastic here at the edge. Yep. And risk it coming away from the plastic. Uh-huh. And have all your water pour down the back. This is my preferred method of doing it. Well, it's tried and tested. And you're perfectly happy with that. I mean, it's the slightest protrusion, you know. No, not worried in the slightest, because it hasn't changed from 3 years ago. Except being less proud. Yeah, it's less prone, because you've added more fiberglass on. I totally get what people say, you know, where you don't want protrusions, but again, you know, as with all things, they'll find something to scratch on. But did a job for a couple. I'll shorten the story. Did a job for a couple, and it was going over old paint, and they'd got well below water level, good foot below, like, you know, inch and a half, whatever diameter returns, just sticking straight out into the pond, and the fish never caught themselves at all. No. And another one of my little stories is that I was round. Have you seen that? I bet you haven't been on my website for ages. That 3D thing that builds the pond. Right. That's based on a customer of mine, Nick, his pond, yeah? Yep. And I sat there the one night, and I've got his bottom drain in the middle, and one of the fish, out of about 15 of them, just went to the bottom drain and glanced itself off like that. And I'm thinking, I mean, I'm no fish health expert whatsoever, yeah? And I said to him, is that parasites or something? He says, keep watching, Matt. I'm like, what's going to happen here then? First fish that flashed. It wasn't a flash as in trying to get something off a gill or something. It was like a glance and a glide off back round the pond. So I kept watching, it came round and it did it again. And every single fish in that pond followed that fish's lead, yeah? And just kissed itself just off that bottom drain. They all did it twice and just carried on about their business in the pond. It was honestly, maybe they got bored. I'm like, you can't. The little stuff I was going through in my mind, I'm like, you can't have trained a fish to do that, but they actually did it, and they weren't, you know, fighting to get to the bottom drain for the rubbing post. It was just like a little gentle glance, really graceful. And I said, have you scraped them? He says, yeah, but you know, the first time they did it, I was a bit worried, but now we just sit there watching them do it. It's great, he said. True story, that.
Right, we'll have a quick look at this barrel. Then you can understand where I'm coming from. I'll follow you. So the top, I want Matt to put a resin coat on to make it even more waterproof. And then I've built a door on the front of this. That was a proper job trying to get that correct curve. Just got to give it a vac inside. And for those connoisseurs of whiskey, the smell in this barrel is just sublime. But that's where the grandkids are going to put all their toys. In fact, one of the grandkids could actually get in there, but we'll leave that for another day. And then I can close that up, put my pint on top. There you go, another little snippet. And as promised, plenty there. That looked nice with
the scant supplies of resin, we can't afford to waste any.
Actually squeezing out of the roller. I'm not making any more, he says. Yeah, alright.
No, we just want to put this, we'll lay this off with a brush. Just leave that there 1 second.
The amount of people that have been photographing this van as they're passing is just unreal. Yeah, just keep shouting in, is this your van, mate? No, no. And my next door neighbour, she calls it the...
Driving with that on.
Yeah. My next door neighbour calls him the rat van. Have you got a brush? Oh, look at that. Want for nothing.
Brushes, we have got a good supply now. We're just, again, it's an old habits die. I beat the bristles out of it.
I usually rub them on a brick wall. It just pulls all, just rub it on brick and
yeah.
it tears all bristles out that you don't want.
Right, let's try and see. It's got bubbles in it because it's, you know, been poured in. It's quite thick.
Just about pick them out.
That'll bring that colour out. Absolutely beautiful, that one.
Yeah.
Just, I suppose this is about as close as you would get to painting. Now, do you want to come right up to this top as well?
Yeah. Just go right around it. It's if it fills with water, then so what? I can just give it a little tip, pour it all off. But I don't
seal down. This resin.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Seal down there. What water won't get inside it?
No.
Because this resin.
Well, whiskey couldn't get out of it, so I don't think water's going to get in.
I could smell it in the van.
Oh,
the most unusual smell I've ever smelt in my life was a van loaded full of fiberglass materials, giving off the styrene, and the smell coming out of this whiskey barrel.
Yeah, I can tell you which one would be better. As soon as I opened the door when I was just videoing that segment, my God, the smell was amazing.
This is going to be a test, isn't it, of my deftness. Deftness, is that a word?
Yeah.
My deft touch.
Yeah. I've still got all this to sand yet. It took me absolutely ages to sand that and get the colour out.
Oh, was it blue? Blue.
It was
blue paint?
Yeah, so it painted blue. Must have gone through about 3 sanding discs just to get to the wood.
This was going to be, I think I bought this in what, December? I bought Richard and I one. I was going to do, this is going to be my own lockdown project. I was going to do an aquarium out of it, or
yeah,
make a kennel for splints, but you beat me to that one. And I thought, you know, tools and, you know, I just ain't got the lots of it to do it, but no, it'll be better off with it.
That's your deftness.
And I've worked out a technique now with
yeah,
the angle of the dangle. Splints!
Oh, chickadee boo.
That's an even better way of doing it.
So I said to my neighbour's son, if I give you some beer, can you and a load of friends pick this barrel up, take it through your garden, pass it over our hedge on Saturday? And he says, yes, no problem. So,
Steve, I've got a bad back, but I'll tell you what, I'm giving it a good go on my own to get hold of them soul beers.
So that's what they're getting.
That's come up mint, that has, mate. Really brought that colour.
12 bottles of beer. And look at that. That is well shiny. That's going to look amazing in the garden. Especially with a load of beer on top of it. Spot on that. That'll all settle, won't it? Will it just settle like liquid?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's not enough on there for it to flow that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's spot on, is that, mate?
Sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless with them barrels. You can make all sorts out, you light them up and all sorts.
Yeah. I think the idea of just putting pint glasses on them suits me and Kat.
So
Happy
little
days.
technique not to get customers' door handles covered in gunge.
You're on.
Beautiful. Right, what we're going to do. This is a flow, actually a flow coat, but it is just of resin. It's not a flow coat with top coat, if you know what I mean. So we're going to smash the non-tissued areas with a flow coat, which is resin. That will smooth out the fibre pattern and make it a nicer looking job, but who gives a toss because it's all underwater. And then with the resin that's left over, we'll make the bonding paste just to bring that all nice and flush. It's all been sanded down, all been dusted out, but we got loads and loads of flies, and it was like a menagerie down there when I got here this morning with flies and spiders and all sorts in there. Now, there are no pinholes in this fiberglass, otherwise I wouldn't be putting this on. I'd be doing some re-fiberglassing, but we had got that water underneath there, hadn't we? But it hasn't breached it. It was never going to breach the old fiberglass, and it never did. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that one? Was talking too much nonsense. What was I
So
doing?
you were going to go around the...
Yeah, put the gunge in the paste there. Ah, that was it. And then once this resin has gone off, then I'll denib it again, because even though it's covered up really well like this, here you've got a fly like this here.
No.
Just 2 more, 3 more.
They're everywhere.
They can get into it, and obviously if I see them, I'll denib them and get them out. On one job I did years ago, and this is one of my boring stories, I did a job for somebody inside, like, you know, like a your shed, big summer house.
Yep.
Indoors, a timber frame, timber line pond. Really nice smooth job, as always. And he phoned me up the next day, he says, Matt, what's all these lumps in the floor? I said, what lumps? Send me a picture. And he'd taken the picture from out there, and you could see these really nasty, horrible lumps in the fiberglass. I'm like, I didn't leave it like that. I said, get a closer photo for me, would you? He got a closer photo, and it was all ladybirds.
Oh no.
This had been built, and the vapour killed them all, and they all just dropped straight in the wet flow coat. He was there with the chisel grind cutting them all off. Now, remember the other week you asked me how long I was going to be here for this final session. This is the last time I'm coming here.
Do you promise?
So just like I asked my brakes guy last night, how did he get into mobile mechanics? I've got to ask you the question, what's the most amount of times you've ever had a fiberglass guy around to do this?
You're it.
So I said, allow just a few hours really, and some of that is going to be curing time for this. Now, as I said, that's where I was going with this originally. There are no pinholes in this fiberglass. This is not why I'm putting this resin on, to fill pinholes. It's just to smooth the fibre pattern out. Now, when it comes to timing on how long I'm going to be here, there ain't no rush. As long as the job's right, as you know, it's as long as it takes. and as many visits as it takes. He's going to be kicking me up the arse later when that camera goes off. And we'll put about 1% in that, which is going to take some time to go off. But with how warm it is, it was really cool in here, but you know, when I got here earlier on, it was cool, wasn't it? And it's really warmed up now. So if I wanted to cut this time right down, I could absolutely put like 2 or 3 tubes of this hardener into that, and it would go off like a rocket ship. But what it would do, that would actually create pinholes in the resin, because when you put any hardener in that, oxygen is created in the reaction, and then the resin would then go off that fast. This oxygen wouldn't have time to, or it would kind of get to the surface, and then as the bubbles burst, leaves what looks like pinholes in the fiberglass, but it's not. It's just pinholes in the resin because it's going off ridiculously quickly. Thoroughly uninteresting fact there for you, Steve.
I'll add that to the rest.
Now, again, talking about contamination, if this was the flow coat proper, I may well put and especially if it's a real gungy environment, I may well put on some shoe protectors. Yeah, we've got a few bits being shed off my boots, but we're not overly concerned about it because this is all going to be sanded down again prior to putting the flow coat on proper. So this is I call this a flow coat because it's resin going onto gone off fiberglass, but it's not top coat. Top coat's the one in the big silver tin that you lifted for me earlier to save putting my back out any further than it's already out. That's ready to do the paste for the skimmer.
Okay.
Just gotta find. Kind of the way I do this is going to be the way I do the flow coat, but I was thinking, would I do the technical parts first, maybe around the way? I might mix up a tad of flow coat, top coat proper, just to get around the technical bits, and then literally just smash it on all the flat sections. I might do. I'm slowing down in my old age, so I might have to do that.
Wait till we get to my age.
Again, I'm going to slop this all over it. Resin is going to be going on the floor, but I don't want this going off on the floor leaving lumps while I'm putting that on. So this won't totally get rid of the fibre pattern, but it will certainly make a nicer job of it than if it wasn't there. And the reason there's no tissue on, at that time I just couldn't get any. Or the bit I did have, you've had on the top to give you that appearance, that it's kind of all done. So rather than just carry on and turn my back on that, these drips here, I'll just take those drips out. So when's the next extension, Steve? Talking about me coming back, we're gonna, by the time I'm dead, we're gonna end up at the bottom of the garden then. Pushing me around in a wheelchair.
In answer to that question, and my marriage is at stake here, no, this is the grand finale.
Yeah, but your coir important, Steve. Come on.
Oh yes, the coir important. More importantly, I'm supposed to be building a squirrel feeder. Am I carrying on with that?
Cat's not here, is she? Hearing you say that.
Yeah, it's still being recorded though, and you can watch it afterwards.
We're having stuff chucked at me in the pond.
Yeah.
And the other thing this does, this little operation, in some form, this roller will be shedding its fibres into this resin, yeah?
Yep.
Which means they won't be going, or they will be minimised going into the flow coat proper, yeah? So less denibbing. Every job there's always some denibbing. Chap phoned me up the other day or sent me some pictures of his job. Barely anything to do to it. you might say this is unnecessary because it's going to get covered in algae. The other reason I'm doing this is that it just makes the flow coat proper easier to put on and lay off, rather than really cranking it into these, you know, the fibre pattern. I mean, you need to kind of be really close to this to see the difference this is making.
Yeah, it's difficult to see on camera. I can see the sheen off the side, but I can't see anything on the front.
I'd rather do this than not, to be honest. You know, like I say, it's not to cover pinholes. This is not to fill pinholes. It's just to give it a better appearance. You can set the internet on fire going on about whether tissue is necessary.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, look at that finish and look at that. What's the customer want?
Yeah.
I don't have to put tissue on. If a customer specifically doesn't want tissue, I don't have to put it on. But I've got a job to do next week where it's like a goldfish pond, basically. Decent size, really weird shape. Or, you know, more fish pond shape, not formal like this. And if it's going to be warm, it's going to be very, very difficult to even get tissue on it, yeah? And then you've got to think to yourself, a pond full of plants and frogs, do you really want to bother putting tissue on a nice, you know, on a rough, and I mean it's a really rough concrete surface, so we'll be sort of deploying the old system of 2 450s that will cover just about everything. So if you were going to have a go at doing this DIY, 2 450s is about your cover just about every surface known to man.
I've been doing DIY 40 years, and no way on God's earth would I attempt fiberglassing or working with gas. Not a hope.
Well, gas could kill you and your property, couldn't it?
Gas explodes. Fiberglass just smells bloody awful. I think the lens on my GoPro's melting with these fumes.
It's getting pretty strong in the bottom there.
Alright, give us a shout when you get near the end and I'll come back. Go.
Oh, right. See what I've done there? I've just put a little swatch on there, a little sample. Oh, behave yourself. You see where I've got it at the right thickness? It's good and solid, yeah?
Yep.
You see where I've thinned it out? I've done that intentionally just to show you.
Yep.
We call that a pissy appearance. So if you don't put enough pigment in, which general rules on most colours are 10%, but you can do way less than 10% on black because it's such a strong and dense colour. Yellows tend to be a bit pissy, so you're probably really likely to use more than 10% on yellows. Light greens, they're pissy. Oxford blue, that can be a bit pissy.
Grey?
Grey's a really good strong colour. It's pretty much less than 10% on that. You've always had green on all your ponds I've done for you.
Always green. Yeah, it's always green. Even the filter that you made.
And then that's the one frequently asked question, what's the most popular colour? The most popular colour is black, but you know what colour this all turns, don't you?
Yeah.
Just a gungy.
Yeah.
It's neither black nor
a gungy,
green.
algae, yeah.
So the plant now, there's 5 kilos in there, and I've not reduced it with any resin because it's really flowing really nicely. Sometimes I might put ½ an inch of resin on top, say when it's cooler, but according to both thermometers it's still just over 20 degrees. Slightly cooler down in the bottom pool there because it's deeper and the styrene vapour from that resin going on is retarding the resin down there. So I'm going to get about 20 square metres out of that pot, which will do not the majority of it, but a really, and again, contamination, massive blue bottle or whatever it is, little thing floating down here. It's all stuff to wind the life out of me. I've just probably got way too much than I need. Well, the kind of way I work, I like to know the exact weight in that, the exact amount of hardener I can put in that, rather than put in, say, I mean, it's all proportionate, and I suppose I could do it, but it's just the way I work. If we got some over, I'm not going to go all around the bottom. I should just stick all the window in, go around the skimmer, maybe do the verticals. We'll just see how it goes. This is the most important operation as far as I'm concerned, to get it as aesthetically as pleasing as possible. And this is the only time when I say to the customer, of all times, you know, this ain't the time to be asking me how many ponds of fiberglass. Where's the furthest I've gone to fiberglass a pond? Long questions, just ask them during the day when I'm on something a little less stressful. So the rule, which every rule in this can be bent to suit whatever you're working with, right? Rule in this is like 1%, yeah?
Uh-huh.
So 5 kilos thereabouts would be 50 cc's of hardener, yeah? 50 cc's of hardener in that, it's going to go off in the bucket at this temperature, without doubt. Before I could get it all laid off and nice, then I'm running around wiping any drips up so they haven't got to be taken off with a blade for when you do set a good 2, yeah? So I go less than the 1%, but not so low that, you know, in the deep bit there, tomorrow morning it's still wet.
So this is just based on experience, how much you can put in and how much you need to put in?
Just make it up as you go along, basically, Steve. Doing it for years.
Man and boy.
So by the time I've got that out, or used whatever I want to, and decided where I'll go in there, you know, when I say about doing these little areas, window frames round these corners possibly, you just want to see how it goes. And then when it comes to doing the second hit, this will have gone off enough for me
to work on it?
Probably not, I'll get out on the window there. But it will have gone off and I will know how long it's taken to not only set in the bucket, but start to skin over.
Yeah.
And wax over. Again, this wax doesn't rise to the surface like some miracle from God. The wax is locked right the way through from the surface, right the way through to the fiberglass.
Okay.
So when it does come to doing the second hit, depending on how much of this I use, yeah, if I did use half a bucket, I've totally got the measure of how much hardener is going to be needed, and it will be done in a really nonchalant fashion. Because this is kind of, right,
yeah,
it is 22, yeah, you've got some windows, angles, drain, skimmer to get round, nice and tidy, yeah, pipes to get round, you know, it's not just to fucking blast it on and, you know, get it all covered nicely. So let's go. So we'll go down to like 46. Now that 4 cc's might not sound an awful lot, but that could be the tipping point,
yeah,
of it going off. So if I get it on too thin, it's going to look pissy like that, especially when you take the cover down and everything. Again, it's all covered up with water.
Yeah.
As long as it's got flow cut on, it really, you know. This is actually sold as a vapour barrier, not a waterproof barrier. Even though this is waterproof and it would all hold water now. This is sold as a vapour barrier, not a waterproof barrier.
Oh, right, okay.
No. I'm not too mean to use another roller, and I'm not trying to stretch 30 jobs out of one roller without just thinking them up, but this has been well used, so the amount of contamination by particles off the roller itself will be at a minimum. And I've got to admit, I do like British Racing Green as a colour for
I love it.
the ponds. It's nice, isn't it?
I do like black. I've got my doubts over grey, but for me, I always go for green.
I've done them in grey before.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen them.
It's not one of them, you know, real popular colours. So that's where we're going to be putting a window in tomorrow, isn't it?
Yay!
Should get about 15 minutes out of this bucket, out of this pot.
Not a lot, is it?
No.
You've got to really motor.
And you don't have to do it in one hit. You don't have to. It's nice if you do. You haven't got to you haven't got to get the tools back out.
No.
And then whatever particles are in this tomorrow, whatever contaminates it before it goes off, then I'll just denib it for you before we put the window in.
Yeah. That blends in lovely, that, doesn't it? The frame. Blends in lovely, does the frame. Right, with that, we're going to leave Matt to do what he needs to do.
I'm distracting myself talking about how it's all done.
We'll ask him about gloves later. Right, end of day one. Matt's just having a beer with Kat. I'm cooking. This is where we are. You might just be able to make out that part of the floor coat is on, and you can see the wet areas and dry areas. So the plan is, so we're not going to be stepping on the brand new floor coat. Tomorrow morning we're going to put the windows in, which come as a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect that, but thanks to Matt. And the window here. And then when the windows are in place and strapped up and clamped up, the floor coating will be finished. I hope you can get out once the windows are in.
That light on just so you can see.
Yeah, that is shiny, shiny. That just looks amazing.
That's come out. Considering there's no tissue on it, or partly tissue some of the way down. It's
it actually looks
really
thicker,
nice.
like a. Just looks like thicker paint. I bet it isn't though. So yeah, I've just been explaining here. Are we going to put this window in floor coat and then climb out on there? Otherwise, you'll not be able to get out, will you? If you do both windows.
I can get out over that wall, can't I?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Trust me, we've got a plan. We've got a plan. But at the moment, we've got to eat first. We've been working all day. That's just looking amazing. So impressed.
Could finish it tonight, but it means tomorrow stepping on that down there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
we.
How scary is that? So yeah, Matt's having a Stella. I'm getting the pizza on, and then we're gonna have a few beers. Catch up with you soon.
Put it on the floor, straight onto the floor.
Right, it's all ready for these suckers in.
On the side, of course. That in the middle.
Yeah. Press that up. And then we'll make a start with the...
Well, before we put any sealant in, let's just offer him in dry
Yeah, sure.
to see what the fitment's going to be like. So if we just lift him back in,
Yeah.
and that will tell us how much sealant we're going to need. And then if we look at each, you know, the two verticals, the horizontal,
Yeah.
because
Got wedges as well.
looking at that wall, this is further into the pond, isn't it, than
It's actually on now.
that wall,
Yeah.
or so,
That's-
at least
that's
that
it,
brick.
that's out.
Yeah. Just pop him up dry.
Okay.
Yep. The moment of truth, did we get the measurements right?
I'm in.
That's absolutely spunk on, isn't it?
Right, I'm put up. How much space have you got there? Quite a bit. And that for the top is perfect. That can sit straight in like that because that's well below the level of the skinner.
Right.
Or would you suggest going
I'd go to the top of the wall personally.
top of the wall?
Yeah. So you want to pack a.
Do you
want
want
to take the spirit level to the top of the wall, top of the glass.
Where would you put?
Hang on. Before we start jumping in and out looking for things, just we know we're good. So let's have a look at the contact points. Now I'm wondering. So that's.
This is well into the frame for starters.
Right. You can't tell where the contact point is, can you?
Only from the outside.
Right.
So if I stand here and hold this.
Really wedge that in, yes? And I'll go up from the top.
Now we need the sealant, and I don't know if I brought a Stanley knife.
Crikey. You can really see how set back the wall is, you know, because it's on contact with the concrete at the bottom from the original blocks.
Yeah. So where
This
is it in contact with? Just the bottom blocks?
It's not in contact with that wall at all.
Okay.
Barely in contact with that fiberglass there.
Yeah. So we've got to put plenty on.
In contact there. This is the side that's going to need loads on.
That's all right. Do that. Is there a spirit level there?
Yeah.
I'm going to tape that on the top. There you go, it's not far off.
I'm just going to put the slightest amount of pressure on that, you know, just to cut the tape. Yeah. Just be prepared for that when I pull the tape. Got another one on just to make sure. And what I'll do, take that pressure off by just doing it like that. You know, looking from out here,
Yeah.
you know I said about getting the glass up to the window,
Yeah.
to the brick, right? You've got about 12 mil, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you come out and have a look yourself, what I'm thinking of, it don't look wrong being set below the brick. But if you start putting packers underneath it to raise him up, how much more difficult is it going to make it?
A lot more difficult.
To get it level.
Yeah.
And is it worth that difficulty factor to bring it up? But if
all I need is it to be higher than that skimmer mouth. And that's what, about 50 mil below the edge of the pond. And this is 12.
Don't get a tape.
Tape's there.
So we'll go from the brick, yeah?
Yeah.
Brick at the skimmer, to inside the middle of the skimmer is 40 mil. So top of brick,
Well in.
that's 40 mil.
Well in.
So if you raise the glass up,
It's not going to make any difference.
you'll have more glass showing, won't you?
Yeah. It can't go any higher than the skimmer mouth. That's the state. The water cannot travel that.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying? If you
Oh yeah.
raise that up,
Yeah.
you have more glass showing. Would you rather have less glass showing? I reckon he's good at that, but if you go out there,
I reckon it's safe at this.
because you were physically resting on that, aren't you? Which is why it was 4 in the first place, isn't it? Right, should we fetch him down then, temporary?
Yeah. Got it?
Yeah. So your side, you're going to want a lot of sealant on it, so it even contacts the glass, yeah?
Yeah.
And this side,
A lot of sealant in this
some,
corner.
yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of sealant. If I have to use all 8 tubes on one window, I'll have to use all 8 tubes.
I've got some, I've got some in the van. This fitting windows like this isn't a service I normally provide. I'm just doing it because the way the timings have fallen with me not driving home yesterday in stupid rush hour traffic. So I just thought, well, I may as well help out on this.
Got these. You just snap off what you need and you just
Alright, okay.
link them in. So when it starts to get in here.
Yeah, I shoot the end of it. I'll go for it.
There it is.
You're going to pump it out direct or cut some off? You'll need I think you'll need to cut some more of that. If you're going to cut that off,
Cut halfway.
you're going to cut a fair bit off to get it enough out.
There's nothing. You got any lines?
Just go inside it, side to side. You need more than that.
Yep. I'm going to do 2 or 3 passes.
I'd say that's about thick enough. But even, you know, when you really, because we're now having to look at this detail here,
Yeah.
each brick that is,
It's different. All different. One week's thick, one
Yeah.
week's thin.
whenever we're dealing with building materials, and this includes fiberglass, the foam, bricks, mortar, I dare even say solvent welding joints and things like that, you've got a nominal thickness, so each brick could be different by up to a certain number of millimetres, and that's what we're dealing with. Not so much the way they've been laid, because they're accurate and true on the outside, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're spunk on. So when you look at the outside, it's the inside that's been thrown a little bit, so we just have, well, Steve's having to put a bit of mortar, a bit of gunge in there to overcome that slight stepping. That's not me criticising the bricklayer, because the outside looks well, doesn't it? Nothing wrong with that.
That's actually nominal brick size, isn't it?
Yeah, nominal thickness, isn't it? there, that's way perfect amount of sealant, I reckon, on that.
Yeah. Get ready with another
Tube.
yeah.
And what I would do, Steve, maybe put another bead on top of that.
Definitely. So that was...
So what we don't want is to put it in and then there's no contact there and have it all goopy and gluey and putting it down and getting covered in it.
Trying to go away from the edge of the brick and towards the edge of the fiberglass.
So just to give you an idea of how much sealant this is actually using, again, this is not having a pop at the way the bricks are laid, this is just the way things are. That's basically one tube of sealant, and we're starting on tube 2 up at about there, aren't we? This is the one where the contact with the glass is going to be a lot better. There's your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going on top of that one, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm sort of doing halfway down the one that I've just done towards this side. And as you had some eyes on outside, how does that look?
Yeah, that's so crazy maybe.
So it's all hopefully all going to shove in.
Yeah, you don't want it going all that way, do you?
Coming out,
So
no.
it will come off the glass easily if it creeps. Can't do it.
Right. You reckon we've got enough?
Enough sealant?
Yeah.
How many more tubes you got?
6.
Yeah, I've got a load in the van. Don't you worry about that. Wah!
Just got heavier. Right. I've loads of gap here from my edge. What about your edge?
Yeah. No, well, that's all, this is all contact in here. All contact out.
All
Brilliant.
contact
That
out.
is absolutely spunk on, mate, isn't it? That is absolutely beautiful. I'm regretting putting that Proflex down now because I'm sliding on it.
Just want to grab one of them.
I'm not doing much other than just supporting it.
I'm just going to get one of them wedges.
Oh Jesus! When you walked off there, I'm like, what's it?
Oh, that'll stick, that'll stick.
Oh, you're just going to kick him up a little bit on that side?
Yeah. And then get some clamps on.
You know the bit that is excess there?
Yeah.
You can slice that off with a nice sharp blade when it's gone off. Don't do when it's wet because it will stray even further.
Right.
Well, that's tidy as out of it.
Oh, sorry.
Should we get rid of that Proflex because it's creating a...
Well, I'll tell you what, because I can't get a wedge in, it's now stuck.
Is that just the suction doing it, probably?
So I can apply some pressure now, that's squeezing even more. We need to put a block of wood down here, but this will stop it from...
And that is as flush as possible, even with that thickness of glass.
You got your torch?
Yeah. Let's get rid of this Proflex, sorry. It's just something to slide around on that, isn't it?
Here, Matt. This is good.
What's that?
Yeah. Contact is limited now.
I wouldn't worry about it, Steve, because remember what I was saying yesterday? In theory, even if there's no contact anywhere around there, this is the seal. That would hold it in. You underestimate the strength of this sealant. Trust me, you underestimate the strength of this.
That's not touching at all. That's not touching at all, mate.
Don't forget, you're going to gun sealant into there, aren't you?
We've got to get something in there. We're not going to be able to get that glass off, are we?
You're not going to want to take it off now. But Steve, honestly, it's not something to be worried about, because you're going to gun sealant into that, yeah?
Yeah.
That'll fill in from the fiberglass to the glass, yeah?
Right.
And then when that's gone off, you're going to come over with at least 2 more anyway. And it'll be fine. I mean, you've got the same amount of sealant, that's the same amount of sealant pretty much throughout, and it's, you know, if we put the, you know, when we rope it up with a, you're getting it there, though.
It's just gap. It's all
There's
gap.
contact. There is contact there.
Yeah, but contact there, but not contact there.
And don't forget as well, you're going to put some sealant around this bottom of the frame, aren't you? And then whatever goes on top, absolutely nothing to worry about, Steve.
Let me get a length of wood.
That's the perfectionist in you coming out, but this is what we're dealing with the nominal thickness of things, aren't we? I'm just holding this here because, not that I don't trust these clamps, it's just, you imagine this falling out now. Steve coming back to that. What happened, Matt?
Right, a length of wood against that bottom.
Nothing wrong with the glass quality or the laminate in between the 2 pieces of glass. There's no air or anything like that in between. It looks really nice, really spot on. This is not something I've done before, putting a window in, so it really is a question of learning as you go along. That window, we'll put that in a little bit differently. But that is definitely throwing it out. Having to put so much sealant in there, it's a question of not you don't actually know how much you've got to put in, do you?
No. So the idea is I'm going to put that against there, put a length of wood against that, against that.
Try and push them against.
Push them against.
I mean, when you were pushing against it,
Yeah.
you could feel that bit of movement, couldn't you?
Right, I'm just going to
You can go direct against the fiberglass if you want.
put a block of wood in there. But
You want to go where go in the middle.
Yeah, I just want to get a mark, then I can cut it. I don't want to cut it in here.
I'm worried over nothing about this glass falling backwards because the primary suction of that glass against the sealant are wrong.
Right, that wants to go there.
You know, in putting that there, you're not going to see the benefit of it actually being, if it's
Will
doing
it go up
anything.
a little bit?
Yeah, in fact you can see it from here. Look.
Okay, so that wants to go against that.
Yeah, but come in the middle of the, where there's the deficit, look. I've made that fiberglass too smooth for you, nothing will stick to it. will it?
stick. Right, you ready?
Yeah,
That's just going to slide up, isn't it?
yeah. Hang on, unless I put it down. But it's still, there's no benefit to that pressure. There's no benefit. It's not forcing that silicone onto the glass. Oh, it is. It is now. Yeah, you're getting it. You're almost full contact now. You know what? I can't see why that would need to stay there once you've got it in, maybe. professional window fitters will be like, what are these guys doing? That's got it, Steve. You're almost there. And there's nothing.
There's a big hole there.
It's like I said, you're being perfectionist because you're a perfectionist, yeah?
Yeah.
But don't forget, even with no sealant there, right? In theory, you could do it without any sealant on that contact face that was put in there.
Right.
Because this is the seal, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, at the moment, if we took everything off, that primary suction is just holding the glass in place, isn't it? Nothing is going to be waterproof. Well, actually, it would be waterproof once it's gone off.
Yeah.
Save for that little gap. But when this when that bridging point is finished, yeah, you're going to go over that, you're going to gun that sealant right into that, and you can get right to the back of the glass there. You can get almost...
can actually get my nozzle in there, can I? A thin nozzle from the outside.
You're not going to let this one go.
No. Trust me, I'm a perfectionist. I'll show you, just so you know. I don't know if you can see it, but there's just daylight in two places. We've managed to gather it up on the other two, but I'm just going to go to the outside, thin nozzle, poke that down there and push it in.
All the straight.
I might be being fussy, but I've got to do it.
I'll get some more tubes.
Well, was that 2 tubes?
That's 2 got you.
Oh, this is well away.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know the weird thing is, that was the more, you know when we had the glass in dry,
Yeah.
it was contacting that point the best, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's very, very thin here, very, very fat there, but again, nominal. I don't think there's anything left on that one.
You're going to want a thinnish nozzle on, you know, for injecting it right back to the glass there. You'll get right to the back of it there, and you're already part way up into the pond from this side.
How did you do it?
Yeah. Have you cut that off?
Yeah.
Hang on, give me an uncut one. Please. There you go. Lovely. Just have that out there in case I don't want anything in there that we don't need.
On top of that, it's dark in here and all.
That's how I look. Do you need this light?
Can you go from
So I can see from here what's...
Can you go from the underside?
You're going to put some kind of coping on top of this.
There's a paving stone to go
Yeah,
in
you can
there.
just really throw it in there then. Right, where you were, stop there, keep going in there.
There?
Yeah, beautiful. Come across. Beautiful. Keep going. And then you literally, an inch across this side. Boom, you've got it.
And then you've got the weight of the water, the curing time.
Mate, she's a beauty at that. And that's obviously just a bit of a cosmetic one now that you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Woo! Never worried, honestly. Right, we need to get some wood on there, don't we, and pull that in.
You won't need a crazy amount of...
It just needs to hold. Give that...
Literally just that primary suction of glass against sealant, it will hold it in. But yeah, put some wood on by all means. Steve, if you throw us a sealant gun,
Say again?
if you give it a sealant gun, I'll start injecting it down this little channel.
Do you want a palette knife, or you just fill it up?
I'm just going to inject it first and then
Cool.
make it pretty afterwards. Forget that light. Right, this one's literally just an injection, Steve, yeah?
Yep.
And once that's gone, you know, later on when I've gone, just keep doing it until you just bridge that absolutely beautiful and brings it all flush. But the lesson learned here is, have more of this than you think you're going to need.
Absolutely.
Because you'd rather have it and not need it than not have it and want for it. And leave half a window. Good, you've got a little cloth out there, Steve, shirt.
Well, medical shirt.
The contact here is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. Better than I thought, to be honest.
Right, so what I'm doing here, Steve, that's literally just going to fill. I'll leave the rest of it to you.
Alright.
To do the cosmetic side of things on the inside, because you're going to want it perfect, aren't you?
Yeah. I've seen too many videos with people who have had leaking windows, and it's enough to give you nightmares, especially when you've got to put your own leaking window in. You don't want it to leak.
Well, do you know there's nowhere for this to go, because it ain't going through that thickness of fiberglass, that's for sure.
No.
And it ain't going through the glass, and it ain't going through that much sealant. Do you know what, Steve? I'm going to leave you to do this bottom section.
Yeah.
Because the glass is in the recess there, and it's flush there, this side.
Okay.
So like you said, the wall must kick out a little bit.
Yeah, it will do.
So can I leave that to you? Because otherwise
Yeah,
I'm going to be not possibly a bit ham-fisted with it, and
It's right behind it.
sorry. How's that?
Yeah.
It's not an 100-mile-an-hour rush with this stuff, is it? Because it's not like it's, you know, going off on you in 100 miles an hour. You're going to spread that out, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to try and force it in, even though there's not much of a gap in some areas. I want to try and force it in.
Yeah.
Same with this.
See where I've come up to there? I thought I'd leave the rest up to you, because you can then work out how smooth you want that finishing point. So I go and find a scraper, what's it, a blade?
Yeah.
A flattening blade.
Just to the left of the pillar drill, they're hung up on the wall.
Okay. A bit of water maybe?
And use some spit.
these the ones you meant, Steve? Because these are the only ones I can find.
Yeah.
Or have you got some plastic ones?
No, they'll do. I won't really use that big taping knife, just that scraper. I'll go across this again. It's got a little bit of pressure in there. Quite a big hole to fill.
Again, when we're working with the fiberglass, it rounds itself off.
Yeah.
Even though you're trying to put something exactly square, like a piece of glass in, the fiberglass isn't square. It kind of rounds itself off, if you see what I mean. So, as accurate as you can be, you're relying on the sealant to bridge any, what would you call it, discrepancies. I'm just looking at this glass, Steve, there's just nothing wrong with it. Get rid of that little pimple I found. Yeah. Dealt with. Scrapers up there for you. Finishing. There's an art to working with sealant in its own right, isn't it? There's all different nozzles you can use and different spreaders. I've seen these guys doing bathrooms on YouTube. And
oh yeah, it just flies in, doesn't it?
Artistry, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Just need to go in various places here. You watch, all fish will just eat all this off, winter will fall in.
One thing I do know about this is when you've got it, when it's excessive like this, yeah?
Yeah.
It don't half spread out.
Well, what I was hoping to do is basically put the scraper on and push and then strike it off.
You'll be amazed, it really starts to run out.
Just so dark in here.
Got you. So that's really forcing it into the gap now, isn't it? And then you can just make good that afterwards anytime, can't you?
Well, that'll just scrape straight off or on.
And under there is even less of a worry now, isn't it? Because you can see it's all got contact and checked under there.
Yep.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Certainly, it's handy when you've got a second person inside, just guiding you. Have you got that torch, Andy?
I would not. I wouldn't even entertain doing that on your own as a one-man job. It just wouldn't be possible. Surely.
You just got on that. You know where I said I saw all them air pockets?
Yeah. It's in. It's in, you good.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed at that bond between that sealant and that fiberglass. Good luck. Good luck ever trying to get that window out. You know, when we do the extension further up the gardens thing.
Yeah.
Notice Cat's not here from when I said that.
Cat's not here for a good reason. I want to remain married.
Now it's just a question of making good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really? Because you know it's all in there, don't you? And the giveaway to whether it's gone off or when it's gone off is just have a finger at the top bits up there.
This is where working with my brother were perfect, because he were left-handed, so he'd have just he'd have been perfect on this job.
Yeah, you know when I said if you can, the excess that has spilled out, under the pressure, you're going to need one hell of a sharp knife to get through that on the outside. Yeah, get the coffee.
Let's look into the gun. If we've got some tubes, use some tubes.
That we have got plenty of, don't worry about that. What's that we've used on this long window so far? 3?
3.
Remember how much of an extra gap we allowed? Remember?
An extra gap?
You know, obviously the glass is X and we made an allowance of Y, didn't we?
Oh,
Because what you don't want is to be trying to jam that glass in and
oh no. I think
jamming it in a corner and...
I think we're about 5 or 6 mil.
Is that all I put on?
Yeah. It wasn't an awful lot.
So the less allowance you make extra, the less sealant you're going to use. The more allowance you give for wiggle room, the more sealant you're going to use to make up the deficit of the gap. You see what I mean? That's the tiniest sealant can work. That is, that'll only get better during the day anyway, because once that's gone, you can just carry on putting more on, can't you?
Yeah.
But I'll bring the blade, I'll bring the blade down that if you can. To make the next one later on. Bring it.
What, across the glass?
No, bring it down, straight down.
Across here?
Yeah, straight downwards. It'll just take the high points out and it'll just make it.
Yeah, I'm weird now.
When you put your subsequent ones on, just make it easier. That's it. Beautiful. Anyway, put that excess.
Only in there, only in the other one, but we don't want to start that just yet.
No, we'll have a cup of tea, shall we, first? De-stress.
A cup of tea and a few tablets.
Well, like I say, Steve, I've never done this before, so you're not alone in the.
No.
You're not alone with stress. It's not been so bad, is it really? Do you see what I mean? Now can you see what I meant earlier though? Now you're putting that seal on that finishing point, yeah?
Yeah.
This here is virtually redundant, isn't it?
It is now, yeah. Hello.
You alright, Kat?
We've just been talking about the pond extension.
I don't think I've seen Steve as stressed as this before in my life.
Well, speak to Kat.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's
Tea,
gone
coffee?
alright. I think we both need a cup of tea after this. It's not been so bad, has it, mate?
It hasn't, eventually.
Good.
But for me, it's like working against a product that I've not used before. How long curing time have I got?
That's one thing that isn't our side of this, because it's not a 100-mile-an-hour race to smash it on and it's going to go off and that bit's going to stick and that bit's not.
But I think I recall listening to people and they're saying, oh, I left it 24 hours. Now that might be wrong, that might be right. Never done it before, I don't know. You might have a professional that says, oh, this will be good to go in like 2 hours.
Well, the test will be just to see how flexible this bit stays up at the top there. And then give it some extra afterwards anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to go, what you're doing now with this making good, you're going to go over that all again later on anyway, aren't you?
Yeah. I know. Matt, do you want coffee or tea?
Coffee, please.
Brown sugar?
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're letting out.
She's a beauty. We'll wrap it up there, Steve. We'll not subject them to watching that other window being put in.
Fortunately, there were no tears during the making of this video, but trust me, as soon as I turn it off, I'm going to be crying.
And with this
How are you doing, young Matthew?
beautiful, mate. We'll answer a frequently asked question in a minute.
Oh, I hope it's the gloves one. Love the gloves one.
How do we do the last bit?
Well, I know the answer to this, but I'm not going to give it away.
Watch and learn.
Watch and learn. What is it now? 21 degrees?
Yeah.
After all that rain and cold, we now have just about too hot. Isn't it typical? It's very difficult to see how good this is on camera, but trust me, using my Mark 1 eyeballs, this looks sensational. Really, really good finish. So today is Saturday morning.
Yeah. Windows are in.
Windows are in, which was tempestuous to say the least. Those professionals that put windows in, well done. We made it up as we went along, and hopefully we are successful. I can't see any...
We're just working around the, as I said in the longer video, we're just working around what is obviously not faults on anybody's behalf, but nominal thickness in materials, which is what you get with bricks, fiberglass, mortar. I bet the glass is the only thing of a uniform consistency.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. So as I've only got 2 window carriers, I've had to use...
Steve, what you're about to be, we're
going to run over me. Fiberglasses all over the place. So they will be left on. It's now going to be 48 hours, but the amount of suction that the adhesive creates is just unreal. We did actually test try to pull the glass away from the brick, and we could just about get the material to flex, but it wouldn't go anywhere. So there is excess to take off, so that's going to be a little finicky job that I didn't really want to do, but if it seals and it's completely waterproof, who cares? I'm happy with that. So basically the job is done. After all this time and all this waiting, I'm not going to say frustration, because it was a case of the weather was against us, the heat, the cold, bad backs, broken brakes on other jobs, availability. It was just one of those things. As I stand here and now, well worth the wait. Proper professional job. Absolutely stunned and blown away, and can't wait to start filling it. So this is Saturday, like I said. It will be starting to fill on Tuesday of next week, so day after bank holiday, and then I can take this nuclear bunker down, which has been an absolute eyesore for weeks. So once the nuclear bunker comes down, I will do a quick walk around video on the inside of the pond in the daylight, just to show you how good it is.
No, don't do that, Steve. Don't get that camera too close to it.
Okay. He's just whispered in my ear not to go too too close.
Film it from my house. It looks all right from there.
Yes, yeah. It did look okay from the next county, but we'll leave that there. Thank you for watching. This is excitement.